million people worldwide are infected with parasitic worms. Malaria kills a child every 30 seconds. Entire African villages are taken down by predatory parasites that leave villagers grossly deformed, blind, or dead. Deadly waterborne illness, infested fruits and vegetables, and debilitating Lyme disease threaten communities throughout America. Every day, hookworms suck the blood of 1.5 million people. Parasites, voracious animals that live off the very essence of our being, thriving since the dawn of man. So complex, no vaccine will touch them. Parasites are evolving. They appear to be indomitable. And they are eating us alive. April 1993. A strange illness creeped across Milwaukee. Personnel called in sick to hospitals and businesses. School classrooms stood eerily empty. Paul Nannis was head of Wisconsin's health department.
As the numbers grew from either 100 people that were presented to the emergency rooms to several hundred people to now 1,000 people, obviously by then we knew there was something significant going on.
For 5 days, doctors, scientists, and administrators desperately looked for answers, while hundreds of thousands of the city's residents were writhing, retching, and rapidly wasting away.
If it was a contained neighborhood, it likely to be food. If it was uniformly dispersed across the city, given wind patterns, it would be air. But what began to emerge was a pattern of illness that kind of mirrored the water distribution in Milwaukee.
The pressure mounted from a terrified public and a frenzied media. The city's water system was infested. But with what? Finally, one doctor on Milwaukee's east side remembered his medical school training in tropical disease. He checked his patients for parasites. The lab tests came back positive. Cryptosporidium, a tiny one-celled parasite, had lodged itself in the intestines of 400,000 of this city's residents.
And even when we learned that it was Cryptosporidium, we still didn't know what the source was and whether our current water was currently infected. And until we knew that, we only knew part of the equation.
They had their culprit, but the scare was just beginning. Paul Nannis and the city of Milwaukee were in the midst of the largest parasitic outbreak ever recorded in the United States.
Nausea, cramping, some vomiting, but particularly diarrhea. And the diarrhea in this instance, the diarrheal disease, was terribly severe. There were people that had 20 and 25 episodes of diarrhea in a day. I mean, they just couldn't get out of their homes. They had to stay home. Nobody ever believed, I mean, even when we knew it was waterborne, we identified the source, we knew what it was, there was still this almost incredulous kind of reaction to how could our water be the source of this? I mean, nobody believed that it could be water.
The shock deepened at the news of the first death, then another. By the time the epidemic played itself out, 200 people were dead from complications from the Cryptosporidium parasite.
It was difficult for healthy people to recover from the episode. So you can understand what happened to people that didn't have healthy immune systems. They just couldn't shed it.
Those who died had compromised immune systems. People with HIV, people already sick, the very old and the very young.
The first 3 weeks of it were incredibly intense, media-wise, the public, the AIDS activist community that were marching down through the city of Milwaukee wanting to know why people that they knew and cared about were dying and what we were doing about it. As I mentioned to you, we didn't have answers. That's a terrible feeling.
Parasitism is kind of a lifestyle, and a parasite is an organism that lives on or in another organism, which we refer to as the host, and does so either at the detriment of the host or certainly at no benefit of the host. So you can have some parasites that really don't cause a lot of harm, but they certainly aren't beneficial to the host. There are many parasites that actually cause great harm and in fact can kill the host.
When you look at the human condition and you say, what is a human being? You could redefine what a human being is in terms of its ability to harbor parasites. Almost all of our internal organs, all of our blood spaces, all of our hollow organs offers opportunities for organisms to live in them. And when they do, and when they cause us harm, we call those parasites.
Parasites are probably the most common agents of human disease on our planet. I often like to say that if Carl Sagan did not go into astrophysics, but instead chose to launch a career in medicine or biological sciences, he would have had to become a parasitologist. Why? Because this is the only group of organisms where we can really talk about billions and billions of people being infected.
Parasites' tenacious behavior toward their human hosts is nothing new. They have been at work since the beginning of life itself.
And no matter what form of life has existed on Earth, there has always been parasites. Always. That's the nature of things. So from the very beginning, we assume parasitism.
Parasites are very clever, though, in the way that they've evolved over time and the mechanisms they've evolved to infect new hosts or move into new areas where they previously haven't been. Just the sheer complexity of some of the life cycles that they've developed or have developed over time in their association with animals, it's just amazing.
As life progresses and becomes more complex and develops defense mechanisms against those parasites and excludes the common ones, it now has to put up with the highly evolved parasites, which have also evolved along with those highly evolved defense mechanisms for stealth and entry mechanisms and cunning and guile, so to speak. We would give them human characteristics.